This conference will now be recorded.
627.
City of Madison.
Okay.
And it was just the three of us.
It's City of Madison.
Started at 6:02 and ended at 6:17.
Demolition permits.
Because we're doing it the 26th, right?
Probably.
I think so, yeah.
We'll be burning City of Madison Fire Department has to oversee.
For some reason that rings a bell.
it.
6:30, the Cottage Grove Fire District Commission meeting on Thursday, September 7th, 2023 at 6:30 PM. And also join the meeting by GoToMeeting. I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present. Discuss and consider approval of minutes from the July 24th, 23 meeting.
Move approval as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion?
That's this one.
Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public appearances, public's opportunity to speak about any subject that is not a specific agenda item. And I have two. From the current agreement, section 9B, this agreement supersedes any and all agreements previously made between the parties relating to the subject matter of this agreement. All previous agreements were hereby rescinded and repealed. And then we have in section 6A, ownership of assets. Except as otherwise provided in this agreement, the municipalities hereby stipulate and agree that from and after the date of this agreement, and notwithstanding any previous agreements or practice to the contrary, the municipality shall be considered to own a proportionate interest in the assets other than the emergency service building, equal to their proportionate shares of expenses calculated in the same manner as set forth in section 5E at time of delivery. You need to look at that because we're going to need to know how you're going to handle the agreement.
We have to talk to the village attorney.
So we'll move on to chief's report.
We are currently at 46 staff, consisting of 10 officers, 2 drivers, 30 firefighters, and 4 probationary. At the time of this report, we were at 223 calls. That's creeped up a little bit. We had a few over the weekend and this week. It's averaging out about to 0.921 calls per day. If this were to continue, we'd end at about 336 calls per service. Breakdown is 104 calls in the village, 38 in the town of Cottage Grove, 33 in Pleasant Springs, and 48 mutual aids. The new tender has arrived. I'm going to put into service. Ladder 1 had its annual testing done on the aerial device and everything passed. All SCBA's had their annual testing done. Ground ladders had their annual testing done. Everything passed without issues. Training, department utilizing acquired structure for RIT, firefighter survival and ventilation training. And the department completed the burn of the structure on 7/29, which allowed the staff to witness residential structure fire behavior. Training for August was on the new tender operation. Training on the truck included pumping operation and turbo draft operations from Lake Aganza. The department also trained on hooking hydrants and flowing from water from hydrants. And training in September will be hot drills. We're also talking about doing a drill with, it's probably going to actually be a drill with hydrite through some real car operations. And we're tentatively going to burn down the structure on Highway AB near the end of the month.
Is that the one on top of the hill?
That one's already done.
Oh,
This one is 3666 AB. It's at the very end of the cemetery.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay.
So,
Rotafil? Oh,
the department applied for an AFG grant earlier this year to add Sims 2 to our SCBA's and provide training for our peer support team and money to assist with the upstairs room remodel. We were denied for the SCBA's and the remodel money, but we were approved for training for our peer support team. Team members will have funds and access to obtain training for critical incident stress debriefing and critical incident stress management, de-escalation techniques, suicide prevention, intervention and support, and stress management for providers. So all total, the grant came out to about $7,600 from the AFG. And that's our current roster down there at the bottom.
false alarms, has that decreased
Um,
since the last meeting?
It has, but we just had one on Tuesday at the same building again. So I was met earlier today with village attorney and commercial inspector for the village about plans to address that specific building and how we can try to make that issue. So we got a couple at Hydride again, but that was mostly caused by us. We were
Drawing water?
drawing a lot of water quickly, which can cause a trip over there because it can't respond fast enough with the system that they have there. So that one was kind of on us, but just one more this month for that building again. So that's like 14 or 15 incidents now at the same building in the village.
Okay. All right, Dave, you had something?
It was AFG grants, right?
Yep.
Just want to get it right on the, so. And I said 2 grants were applied for, with 1 approved for peer counseling training in the amount of approximately $7,600.
It was all one grant, but they denied portions of it. So we applied for 3 things and they denied 2 of them and gave us approval for 1 of them.
Anything else for the chief? Moving on then to discuss and consider a security system for the emergency service building.
Okay,
Who's gonna tell us?
Chief Gary is on to kind of support our conversation. We brought him in to have a discussion of the work we had put in as compared to what he would suggest for security, to see if we were overshooting, undershooting, or if we had it right. So through his walkthrough of the building, he suggested there would be several more doors that we put access control onto. Along with, if we could have security, we should. So that caused us to reach back out to, as in camera-based security systems, not building access security. That's what the whole thing is all about. Reach back out to the 2 vendors to see if they could update their quotes to not only include what was supposed to be identical doors, and a 360-degree camera surveillance system, which you got the ESS quote in your packet. And that has some additional extra cost if you choose to go with it, and a recurring cost. Both of the proposals ultimately will have recurring costs. I didn't print off the one from ESS because it was in the digital packet, David. So the one from Omni came through late last night, so there was no ability to get it into the digital packet. They had sent over just a basic price quote. From reviewing the Omni proposal, they have 12 doors, and the ESS proposal has 13. Somewhere along the line, even though I walked Omni to each of the doors and said this one, this one, and this one, they chose this one and that one, and then forgot one. So I'm sure the cost of the door that they think they need to do is probably the same as the cost of the 2 doors we actually want them to do, if that makes sense. So it would work its way out. Part of the advantage of the ESS quote is that it's an all-in-one system. It puts access control and video management into the same computer program, and we wouldn't need to have any type of monitor, if you will, with the cameras in the building anywhere. It can all be done virtually from any computer we choose. Whereas the way it looks, the quote from Omni has an internal system that would put all of our, I think there's going to be 8 cameras onto one screen that we would have somewhere in the station. It would still record it and we would still have access to it, but it's separate systems for the camera management and the access control management. There's licensing agreements associated with it. If I remember correctly, the ESS licensing agreement is $400 per year, which would turn into a recurring cost. It was $500 as a licensing agreement for additional costs would be as if we chose to offer smartphone apps for anyone that would like to use it. It would be $4 or $5 per smartphone app if someone chose to use it.
Annually?
Yeah, per app, and it's transferable. So if we wanted, let's say we decided that we're going to buy 25 apps, it would add $100 per year to the ongoing cost. Each of the quotes include 100 fobs. So that was included in the quote already.
So if I'm reading the Omnis right, one has for all the hardware and software.
Yeah, one is doors and the next is cameras. They split it up into 2 separate quotes.
Okay. I just want to make sure for the notes I get it outlined right.
And then ESS is an all-encompassing quote. We also have the quote from before to rely upon that was, I think, 8 or 9 doors. That was roughly $30,000 each. So we have incremental quotes to discuss.
What doors did the chief Gary add over and above what you originally?
The chief office doors to add access control to those. So the door to my office, the door to Nick's office, and then the door to the 2 additional would be inspection division and I think training division offices, because based off of his view of records is that we have important records that should be secured and we should be able to know who is coming and going from those offices. So that would be why he would suggest access control on those. The camera systems those quotes are only for the exterior of the building. There was no additional cameras on any part of the inside of the building. And it would basically.
Either quote?
What's that?
For either quote?
Both quotes were exterior.
Okay.
Focusing on, there's a couple spots where there's no way to get in the building. So if there was a dead spot, it would be those locations, but having cameras to cover both sets of bay doors and any entrance door to specifically see who might be coming or going if needed.
So I have a total price. So Omnis for those playing at home, 63,380, and ESS is quoted 69,520.
Additional cost for installation for either or both, I think. There's going to be a lift additional cost for construction that neither included in their price quote, so they'd have to rent a lift for a couple days to do install. And Omnis might be just for cameras. Omnis and ESS both might be just for cameras. Like if we're installing cameras, then they would need the lift. But if we're not installing cameras, then they wouldn't need the lift. So I have no idea what a lift costs to rent these days. So I'd assume a couple $1,000s extra above that.
I guess comment I would make is the fact that company that I work for has pretty extensive security systems in 12 different locations. And the problem that I see is the fact that the NVRs and the monitors do not last long. Okay, and unfortunately, and then I mean, some of them, and I buy darn good stuff. And just because of the fact it's on working constantly, I can count on every 2 years having to replace NVRs and sometimes even a monitor. And so the idea of potentially having cloud-based recordings and access, you know, to me sounds more appetizing, if you will, than having on-site setup. Plus the fact is that NVRs can be breached. You know, I mean, no matter what you do, and I would just assume if you're going to do that and having access to those, to your camera system, just generally limited to whomever you choose to do so, that would be great. And, you know, being able to see something 10 feet away, depending upon circumstances, just might be too tempting, especially if something nefarious happens. So I'm just throwing that out as far as I prefer cloud stuff versus, you know, hardware, literally hardware locally.
Chief, I'm trying to glean it from, and I think ESS, I think it's a little bit easier to tell from their quote, the ongoing annual licensing fee, because it's $480, but I'm struggling on the Omni to understand what the ongoing annual costs are. Maybe I'm missing it. I see the key fob charge, but is that an annual cost or is that a one-time?
That would be, well, that would be 100 up front, and then I think whatever minimum quantity we'd have to order them in after that. Maybe it was something that I should have included from an email. Let me
Yeah, I know. I see. Yeah.
it might just be an annual fee to enable them for smartphone use.
Okay.
And then not only the annual fee to enable them, but the per app use.
So, okay, so ESS annual licensing fee is $480.
Omnis, you said was 500.
If we enact, I didn't make up that number, I know I saw it.
Can we say in the neighborhood of $500?
Yeah,
So they're basically both the same.
roughly.
So all in all, these quotes are all within the same ballpark, give or take. $2,000.
So option ad number 2 on the first page of scope of work says ads include $5 per mobile user device for license, and then also yearly subscription of $27 per native reader. So that would be $27 per bottom of that page. But I know I saw $500 in somewhere. Maybe I read some
Well,
stuff.
all I put in Omni's in the neighborhood of 500, but Chief, we need to validate that number.
Even though Omni's is less expensive, I've been a little bit more impressed by the work that ESS did and the stuff that they showed us and their process and the other work that they've clearly done for school districts and other municipalities. So if you were to ask me to choose one, I would choose ESS, even though it is the more expensive of the two. I think it's a better quality, at least from what I've been described as, and it puts the system in the cloud and in one platform.
Any idea what the cost would be on others to provide in their quote?
From ESS?
Yeah.
What was your question?
What are we going to incur in cost for these items?
Oh,
They have others to
electric,
provide.
fire alarm, output relay, door hardware, changing wall repair if required, lifter costing. That's the additional cost.
All, from what we talked about, when we talked about this, he said all the door hardware changes were also included with his locksmith in their quote. So wall repair if required, the lift cost if the lift is required. The static IP address will have to bear that cost. We'll have to change that because we don't have a static IP right now. But that's a small increase to our monthly TDS bill of, I think a static IP is $5 a month.
Do you have businesses in that range? TDS businesses?
I think I pay $8 a month with PDS for my commercial ones.
Oh,
So,
maybe it was $5
Yeah.
4
Yeah,
years
no,
ago
no,
when we signed up.
Yeah, we're not too far off on that.
I just had no idea what this might.
Yeah, the only thing he believed of the others to provide, and they put that as their standard, just in case something were to pop up clause, would be the lift, because the lift isn't included in their quote. And where I suspect they're gonna put the cameras, they'll need a lift. His cameras are 360-degree all-in-one, so they'll go on the corners of the building.
As far as scissors lift goes, which I'm assuming is what they refer to, I can tell you that I had one down at my Watertown location for a week and it was $460 for the week. And I couldn't tell you who it came from, but that's potentially negotiable too from whoever you get it from. Maybe if, well, you know, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to say that we could go to Sunbelt and then in the response district and get it from them, but I don't.
Mm-hmm. True. That's what I was thinking, but
Yeah. Sunbelt in the response district? No. So we've gathered the information. You effectively have 5 different proposals to sift through. 2 from each of ESS and Omni, and then the simple door one. Through this discussion, in my mind, I think you just tear up the idea of putting in the door handles because it doesn't address the front door.
A lot of money up front, but it's never a good time to swallow a pill like that, but it's 2023 and
One of the questions I did ask Brian today, expecting to also get asked, it would be, you know, if we decide to defer cameras and look for those in the future, if he could predict a cost increase. He attempted. I mean, he said you could probably use 20%, and that might be high, but you don't know. It's electronics, and clearly we can show that we brought a similar proposal in 3 or 4 years ago, and it's now double what we, double plus what we brought in then. The proposal from 3 or 4 years ago was 30,000. This is now 60 plus. So
Sunbelt scissor lift for a 20-footer is 195 a day.
what was that?
195 a day for a 20-footer.
Being sort of department, they may give you a break.
Chief Gary, I'm curious just to hear from you, kind of what you think about both proposals.
Evening. I have not seen the proposals.
Oh,
yeah, we set him up for failure. He hasn't seen them. I can email them to him if you want.
I guess just in general, Mark, just curious on your take on this whole thought process then.
So from my perspective, from a security standpoint, obviously you have a large investment in equipment, personnel, and records that are maintained at that facility. I believe that truly there needs to be improvement made to not only the security aspect of it from locking doors and access control, but also for the camera placement to cover the potential of anybody that's going to try and do something nefarious out of sight. Obviously being right along County Highway N there, the front side's great, but it's when they go around the backside of that building that they can hide out in the coves and dark areas, and they have access to doors that are limited access. So I, again, from a professional perspective, anything is an improvement towards what you have right now.
Which is nothing.
Yeah, and I would say if you were in discussions to build this building today, all these things would be on it already, and you wouldn't have to have this discussion 20 years later.
Yeah. This is something we would want the chief to include in the 2024 budget.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bite the bullet, and I think it might as well do it all right now.
And then at our next meeting, the end of this month, we can send it forward. Just pick which one we want.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, these quotes are probably good for what, at best 90 days. 90 days. It probably is. That's what I think.
30 days on the Omni,
Yeah.
which is gonna put it, what, into September, October?
Yeah. 9/6, so a little into early October, so.
I guess I would make a motion to accept the ESS proposal. And we forward that proposal on the monies to our respective boards for approval for the 2024 ESB budget, ESB and fire budget.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Question, are you going to have any of the work done in 23? Or is you going to have ESS to give us
Not bill us until 24?
till 24?
I know, what do you think?
Buy now, pay later.
Oh, I mean,
Well, but I
it
mean,
has nothing to hurt. I would certainly, we've done that before.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
they
you
wanted
could
to
ask,
put the-
it's not,
We can ask him to install the final door lock on some random door in January 2nd and say that the project isn't completed until
50% down when we sign the contract.
Yeah, that's the disadvantage.
I don't know if we have the money right now. I mean, we can ask Cameron. What I wrote was, Steve made a motion to accept the ESS proposal and forward said proposal to respective boards for approval for FY 24. Seconded by Mike. Steve, how do you want to change your motion? I'm open to anything.
But there needs to be answers from other people before you can suggest we do any work in this year, which would be each of your municipalities, correct?
The motion.
I mean, the motion could stand as is,
Right, that's
and
what-
we could
This is going to be the next agenda.
offline, I mean, to ask about, all the other stuff that we talked about. I don't know that I would predicate the entire motion on whether or not the stuff would be done, or we'd have to outlay lots of money in 23 versus 24. Does that make sense?
Or we can ask ESS if they would make their question.
We're gonna have to come back anyway, so I think leave it as is, and we've instructed the chief, so I think that's good enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate you taking a look at things over at the fire station, Chief Gary.
I'm glad to help out. We all have a stake in it, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
We UV cleansed him before he walked in, so he didn't bring any of those village germs in.
On the motion, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So I'll put it on for our 18th for the town board. I assume you'll do the same for the village?
And I'll reach out to Brian and see what the prospect of any work in 2023 would be. Maybe there isn't any opportunity to get any work done in 2023, so that changes the discussion completely.
Question, how much do we have in the ESB budget remaining?
If I were to guess right now, I would say about 33,000.
Because I'm wondering, this is just out loud, if we budget everything full price for 24, if we have to take some cash out of the existing ESB budget as faith money or whatever, we could always replenish it from what we approve for 24. I think we could do that legally, right?
Well, both town and village have to agree. We've agreed to put 20 in.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying, we agree to pay to the full amount and we need to give them a little bit of good faith money beforehand. We can replenish from our full approval back to what we have in there now, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that would be similar to the discussion from last month of if it was 30,000, spend the 30 now. Before we went and got more information.
Mhm. Okay. Moving on then to discuss and consider including
Thanks,
pager
Steve.
replacement in the 2024 Cottage Grove Fire Department capital budget.
So this got put on there because we've been having pager failures quite a bit. We send them in for repair. It averages anywhere from 220 to 300 and I think $320 to repair them. They're 16 years old already.
Is the county still doing them? Or are you using somebody?
This would be going through GenCom.
Oh, okay.
You're 16 years old?
They're 16 years old, yeah. So they're already past their life expectancy. And I guess the village is going through their capital budget planning right now, and I just reached out to, I decided, it's like, well, we got to add this to the capital budget somewhere. So I asked the village where it fit into their agenda the best. And what they came back with is they want to actually put it in 2024 and potentially use ARPA funds to buy them. The estimate that we're having for replacing all the pagers would be 30,000. That's a little high. I made it high because prices are crazy and go crazy all the time, but figuring a brand new pager is $400 right now. The chargers, another $100. It averages out to $500, and then the programming, it's $25 right now, so it's $525. So I put $600 per pager. Figuring 50 pagers, we probably need less than that because we replaced some of them this year. But 30,000 was the budget number that we went with. And like I said, Cameron came back and they wanted to do it in 2024 using ARPA funds. They're calculating their portion would be 66.38% or $19,914, leaving the town with the remainder, which would be $10,086. So I was wondering if it'd be okay to add that to the 2024 capital budget. I know it's not a lot of time. And I brought a copy of what we already have on the capital budget for 2024, and that's the squad replacement, which is just shy of 700,000, and outfitting of the squad, which we figured about 9,000. So
That's walking money by comparison to the squad.
I'd put it in the capital budget.
Yeah.
So that's a discussion.
Did you make a
Do you have to
motion?
approve or-
No, I mean, just,
I'll make a motion to approve, including pager replacements in the 2024 Cottage Grove Fire Department capital budget.
Second.
okay, there's a motion and a second. Put it in the 2024 capital budget. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Discuss and consider approval of the contract for provision for fire protection and rescue services to the town of Pleasant Springs. Change the dates.
The dates and the names changed because it's a commission now as opposed to the joint fire committee or whatever. So the dates and then the name is the only thing that changed. The money is the exact same. That's what we discussed earlier this year. So it's literally the same contract we've been using since we've had it. Back in 2009.
Glad to see they were willing to stay with you guys.
They haven't approved it.
Oh, they haven't seen it? Oh,
You guys have to approve if this is okay to send to them, is what.
Have you kind of broached the subject with them?
We've talked about, we briefly talked about, they want the price before the end of September because they want to put it in their budget. I don't know where they're gonna go with it.
who else are they courting, do you know?
I don't know if they're courting anybody, if they're just gonna keep it status quo and go with everything. They haven't really said. The only thing that I would see is that, obviously Deer Grove's price went up quite a bit. So and if we're coming as a package deal, that's gonna make, I don't know what they're gonna do. They haven't inclined one way or another what they're gonna do, if they're gonna take the increase from Deer Grove or if they're gonna shop it out or what.
They haven't made any comments at Deer Grove VMS meeting about it.
No, and I reached out to see if they needed any more information before the holiday. They had a meeting on Tuesday, and a discussion of the contract wasn't on the agenda. But I didn't get a reply from Dick or Larry either. So I'll reach out again, expecting that it'll be on their next meeting, which is
Well, I'm only curious about the annual increase at 1% per year. With inflation, it doesn't really go up much from 24 to 28. How many calls is it? How many calls of service if we map it?
This year, we're at 33 right now.
33, yeah,
I think last year we finished at just over 50.
keeps going down, doesn't it?
It has dropped. When we first took over the contract back in 2008, we were just shy of 100 calls a year. With the reconstruction to I-90 and some of the other changes they made were significantly less than that.
And so if there's a call on I-90, that counts as Pleasant Springs, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Do you think because of the widening, it's making it, there's less calls because the highway's wider?
That's part of it. There's, when an accident happens, there's room for them to get people to go around it, where when it was 2 lanes before, they were into each other. The years of construction, it was way worse. We got a lot of calls for that.
Yeah.
But
See the orange barrels and you go faster.
even now,
You get something to bounce off of on the way down.
even now, we're sometimes being called to, like, the accident happened. They cleared the accident from the interstate, got them to like the weight station, and we're getting called to the weight station because now the patient decided okay, now I have a neck ache, so I'd like to get seen by the ambulance now. So they're not even calling us as much to the accident anymore. They're calling us to the after effect of the accident. It's kind of
But it still gets coded as an accident, so
Right.
that's why they get
Ah,
attached to it.
okay.
So we've had quite a few of those this year.
And it's a package deal. They have, if they can't just take EMS, they have to take fire with.
And what's the when I say elevator, what's the increase per year on the EMS side?
Significantly more than 1%.
Yeah.
But I believe you guys were trying to get more in line with your equalized value.
Yeah.
So they were starting lower and doing incremental increases, so it wasn't so painful on the front end because it wasn't
Yeah,
spending
so-
underpaying for years.
Look at it this way, our contract with Pleasant Springs for, let's say roughly 120 calls per year, that's been the average, has been in that $35,000 range. If you plug them into the funding formula, they should pay somewhere in the area of 110,000, somewhere between 100 and 110. So the goal of our contract was to
Slowly move them up.
give an increase up front and then probably move them to what we suspect would be what the true value of or what the true cost of providing the service to the township was. So it starts off, I think in the middle 50s and goes up to the $90,000 over the course of 5 years.
But Nick, like you said, the number of calls have consistently dropped year over year.
Fire.
On the fire side.
On the fire side.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
on the fire side.
And that 60-some thousand we get from them, that goes in that separate fund for
Right.
equipment.
Do you think in 2029 we'll just rewrite the dates again, or?
I mean, I guess if it would kind of depend on what the contract's doing, you know, if the workload significantly increased, then I would say follow that accordingly, you know, I mean, I guess technically we're keeping the same price as we did in 2009, but if our call volume was cut in half, we're really charging more per
Twice,
call,
yeah.
twice the amount per call as we were in 2009, I guess. That's how you want to look at it.
I see though, there's no way to revisit it, we've locked it in at 24 to 28.
And so it's 5 years with their,
So if in the next 2 years, and again, I'm playing hypothetical here, but let's say it drops significantly and then something happens and it goes up considerably, like it quadruples, we're locked in. So there's no recourse for us.
Right.
So however unlikely that might happen, that is always a possibility.
So I'll plead ignorance here a little bit, and I haven't read your contract, nor do I have a reason ever to read it. But I know our contract has an out where if we wanted out, we gave 6 months notice. And if for some reason you had significantly more costs, your contract probably has that 6-month out clause that you could enact if you needed to.
And additionally,
It says that neither party may withdraw from the agreement.
Oh, well, then you're.
And one of the reasons that says that, if you go all the way back to 2008, one of the issues that they came shopping for was because that provision was in their contract with another entity, another set of entities, and they got this big bill. And
Which is what I was
It's-
gonna bring up, yeah.
which is why we went to the good faith agreement of going, hey, look, any contract can always be amended, right? If something gets completely out of whack, you talk to each other, and that's why you have the good relationships. But they also never came back to us when the call volume dropped in half to say, hey, we want to refund either. So you kind of got to agree on the price and how they do business, which is
Correct.
you're adding another municipality to 2 other municipalities.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I mean, it was definitely the reason that caused the change from to us.
Oh, it was on the EMS side, but it was actually a lot more on the fire side.
Yeah. I have to remember that, you know, yes, we provide the equipment that would otherwise sit in the station. It's the volunteers that are providing all the free labor.
No, I'm with you. I'm thinking of horror scenarios, right? And the fact that if the state decides to drastically do something to I-90, which is Pleasant Springs, and all of a sudden we quadruple a call volume, that's of no fault of ours or Pleasant Springs. But if we have to do 4 calls a day, again, horror scenario here, right? That puts an undue strain on the volunteers, and we can't do, the way the agreement's written, there's little to no recourse we have. Because again, it's of no fault of Pleasant Springs or ours, but the call volume has quadrupled to the point where volunteers are burnt out, and we do about a call a day today in the entire district. But if we had to make 4 calls to I-90, in addition to the 1 call on average that we do, like that's a lot, right? And so that's just where my head's going, is like, you're getting a sweetheart deal for 60K, a little over 60K. If all of a sudden we have to start making a call there, it's like, there's nothing I can do about it.
Right. And they aren't going to make any changes to 90 for another 20 years.
Yeah, you gotta,
I don't have a crystal ball.
but you gotta look at the timeframe that they have to go through all the state approvals and everything else. You're not gonna get any changes to I-90.
Stranger things have happened in this world.
Well, right.
Again, I'm talking about a less than 1% possibility here, but all I'm doing is highlighting, just for the record, that like the way it's written, it's just, it's making a ton of assumptions that it's making the assumption that the call volume will stay the same or decrease for the duration of the contract.
And we could always be called there if we didn't have it for mutual aid. If McFarland or Stoughton was busy
Right,
and there was an accident, those guys would still get the call.
sure.
So I would make the motion that we present the draft agreement to the town of Pleasant Springs, see if they will accept it or not.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Send the agreement to Pleasant Springs for
Do we need to run that by her?
their feedback.
I think it's fine.
What's the commission that proved it? Does it have to go to municipalities for approval?
Not until Pleasant Springs approves it will it come back to the town and the village to sign on it.
So Chris, you made a motion, and
I
This was a second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Future agenda items. Budget.
Budget next month, yeah. Well,
This month,
same month, but we already set a date for the next meeting.
25th, please.
When are we having the next meeting?
23rd is the 4th Monday.
That's Saturday.
25th.
That will be the,
Or 26 is when we were having landfill at 6 PM. Wasn't it?
it should be
Doing 2 and
Monday
this
the
month,
20th.
so
I have.
I was already up in October. My
Yeah.
apologies.
I have the Monday, September 25th at 6 PM is the next landfill.
I thought Tina couldn't make that.
No, she can't. That's,
Did we move it to Tuesday?
yeah, the 26th.
Do we want to move this meeting to Tuesday or just?
You get, they have training, or do we want to meet separately on Monday?
I can come back Tuesday. I can come Tuesday for landfill and then do Monday for fire.
Yeah, because when Tina had issue or conflict, Kim talked to your folks.
Oh, that's right. I remember the email. You're right. You're right.
So I was hoping that they let you know.
No, I did. I didn't change it on my calendar. That's all.
Okay.
So we're good. So we'll do
Fire on the 25th,
fire on the 25th and we'll do landfill on Tuesday, the 26th.
26th. Okay. Anything else other than we'll have chief reports? And we'll have the security system again.
A little bit of information will probably be able to have in addition.
Anything else?
What time are we doing fire on Monday?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30.
Okay.
So I've got, next meeting will be Monday, September 25th, 2023 at 6:30 PM.
Yep.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. It's non-debatable. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried. See you in a couple weeks. And this